and he is out for the year with 2 broken bones in that right leg. Colt McCoy took over for him. Brett Maher, the 42-yard game-winning field goal, gives the Cowboys the 22-19 win over the Falcons. Ezekiel Elliott, 201 total yards and a touchdown. Justin Tucker's field goal in the fourth, the difference. Ravens knock off the...
Take CBS Sports Radio 1140 with you is the radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. It's the PG, your weekly go-to football post-game show in Las Vegas. The PG, scores, highlights, guests, and storylines from the Raiders and the NFL. It's your time to sound off and shout about the day's highs and lows. Call now. 702-889-5978. Here's Scott Goldbranson and your host, Tony Cordasco.
And good afternoon. We are live from the studios of CBS Sports 1140 AM in Las Vegas. It's the PG, your go-to football postgame show. It's Week 11 in the National Football League, and we have all the highlights for you. Carrington Harrison from the Ticket 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City will join us here in hour number 2. And we're also going to preview the Chiefs-Rams game with him coming up in L.A. on Monday night. Tony Cordasco along with Scott Goldbranson. The call-in number, 702-889-5978. Feels so good, right, Scott, to be back on local radio here in Vegas.
It does. I mean, last week I was not with you for the exciting Week 10.
Only in spirit.
And here we are going on the air as the Raiders are getting the ball back. So I know you'll get everybody to that. But, yes, great to be back. It is Week 11, folks. Football's starting to heat up for the playoff run.
And we're also on the radio.com app. David Stepanian's our engineer. And, Scott, let's get to the scoring update.
Let's do it, Tony. All right, if we start now and we look at games already complete, it was the Tennessee Titans. They moved to 7-3. They go to 23-21 over the Redskins in that game. Ugly, ugly injury to Alex Smith, the quarterback. He's out for the season, broke his leg, folks. It was the G-Men and a resurgent, if I may say, Eli Manning, 38-35 over Fitzmagic. And the Buccaneers. It was the Steelers 20-16 late over the Jaguars. The Colts 38, the Titans 10. The Titans win streak comes to an end. It was the Detroit Lions outlasting the Panthers on what was a controversial late 2-point conversion for Carolina. We'll talk about that later. They lose to the Lions 20-19. Ravens 24 and the Bengals 21. It was the Cowboys 22 over the Falcons 19 in a game down in Atlanta. And currently in action right now, as I mentioned, the aforementioned Raiders, who are driving now in the red zone, they trail the Cardinals 21-20. The Chargers on top of the Broncos 22-20 with Denver driving on the Charger 45. And it is the Saints just completely demolishing, just a shellacking of the Eagles down in New Orleans for what looks like their ninth win in a row. 45-7 is the score in New Orleans. Tony,
so
back to you.
Derek Carr, now they like each other. Now they're hugging each other. Gruden and Carr back together again. The reunion tour. So we're going to have a field goal attempt coming up here from Daniel Carlson, who already today is 2 out of 2. So the situation, it's a 35-yard field goal attempt. 21-20, Arizona is leading the Oakland Raiders. 2 seconds to go. And do we want the Raiders to win this game? Or
why?
A lot of people. Why do you shake it?
For Raider Nation, it's been a rough year, Tony. So it's kind of like I think you're torn, right? You want this team to get off the schneid, but at the same time, you'd like Joey or you'd like Nick Bosa, right? So the point is, do you win this game? Great. If you don't, then you start. Then you're going to be tied with the Cardinals with the tiebreaker. So you're actually the number 2 pick overall.
Yeah.
But I think for this team and for, you were talking about Carr and Gruden, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but they had some altercations on the sideline, but now John Gruden hugging his quarterback, looking like he wants to, stick his tongue down his throat. So who knows?
That's disgusting.
Yes.
But here's a Raider team that we didn't even know how they would react to because they haven't been here before.
Right.
They don't know how to close out a game.
Well, I'll let you
But
call
here's
it, Tony.
Carlson. Kick is on the way, and that is plenty long, and that is plenty good.
The Raiders win, folks.
And the
John Gruden.
John Gruden is smiling, and he's having a good time. But why? Why would you win this game? 23-21 is the final, as now the Raiders, a team that at one point had controlled its own destiny.
2 wins. They're at 2 wins now.
So now they're.
Is this the beginning of a playoff run? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, my goodness. No. Are you kidding me? Though they controlled their own destiny in the battle for the top draft pick.
Yeah.
And they win a game.
Yeah, but it's for a young team though. That's the thing is like as a fan, you're torn because the year is over. You're not going to get to the postseason and all that stuff. But at the same time, if you're a young player and you're a coach of a squad, and the young players that are going to stick around on this core unit as they rebuild it, then you want that win because you want these kids to feel like the work that they're doing on the field during practices, during games, is actually leading to something and leading to some success, right? Success is a big deal. So if you can get some success, it helps, I think, with the maturation process for the Raiders.
So let's talk about this game. So late in the contest, it was a 5-yard touchdown reception. Josh Rosen to Larry Fitzgerald that made it 21-20. And then the Raiders, they had to drive the field here. So there was a punt that went in the end zone. They got it, back in their own territory, and then they have to drive the field, and they did a great job of clock management there in that situation. Got it down the field, set up the winning field goal for Daniel Carlson, who today was 3 out of 3. We're watching the games today, and you said Carlson's going to be. I said Carlson.
5 years.
He'll be here for how long?
5 years at least.
Okay, not the hockey playing Carlson. Will not be in Vegas for 5 years.
No, he won't be in Vegas for 1 more year. But I will tell you this. I think Carlson.
Sorry for the hockey reference, football fans.
As we talked about earlier, since he won the game today, we have to talk about him some more. But with Carlson, when the Vikings signed him, he was considered one of the top young kickers out there. He comes out, he has a horrific game, and they cut him, right? So they cut him. But at the same time, he's a good young kicker, and I think he's got a real good advantage. And I think that he's a guy who's going to be there. Eddie Pinheiro never had an opportunity due to injury to be on this Raiders team and to make a difference. But now you roll out Carlson. He wins the game. He's been pretty steady so far in the few weeks that they've had him. If they scored some more, we'd see more from him. But yes, I think so, and I think we've devoted enough time to the kicker.
So one of the biggest storylines of this game, though, early on, and the reason why we were just talking about John Gruden and Derek Carr hugging it out, was earlier in the game, there was a verbal confrontation between the two on the sidelines, and also Lee Smith was not happy, and there were a lot of issues on that Raiders sideline.
There were, and we heard reports that Lee Smith had grabbed John Gruden by the neck, but then one of the official radio guys from the Raiders at halftime in the press box said, no, he grabbed him on the shoulder. So, social media creates everything. It goes from, hey, he tripped on the ground to, oh, my gosh, he tumbled down 15 flight of stairs, and then he broke his head open, and then he crashed into a car and broke an old lady's bone. So everything gets gets enormous when it's mentioned in social media. But we did see on Twitter, for example, Tony, that there was open arguing between Derek Carr and John Gruden early in the game.
We saw the videos. Yeah, the videos are out there. They've gone viral, and we saw that those two were having a not-so-pleasant exchange.
They were just trading recipes. No, but I want to say that that's all overblown. We were talking to a friend of ours, Coach Jim Bowe, who coached college basketball, and we said, for players and coaches to get in arguments in the heat of the battle there, that's not unusual. But you mentioned it earlier on. We were watching the games. Social media just magnifies everything. So that might have happened 100 times in a season, and you never saw it. Now you see it every time.
So now Lee Smith, we saw one situation. So he gets into whatever argument or disagreement he has with Coach John Gruden today. Then we see him come back on the field, and he doesn't block on a play.
Doesn't
just
block on a
stands there.
play.
He just stands there like he literally did not make any contact with a player in a passing situation.
Yeah, and he also then at another time missed a block as he was double teaming and they brought an extra guy where he should have noticed it. But at the same time, it's interesting because Lee Smith has been an ardent defendant of Derek Carr when people have been criticizing Derek Carr, who had a good game today, by the way, 100 passer rating, 19-31. So, but I think that it's just when stuff's going bad, Tony, we talked about it this morning on our show. When things are going bad, it just goes, everything's bad. There's nothing that feels really, really good. So for the Raiders to win this game today, probably going to do a lot of good for them overall.
Jared Cook today had a touchdown, had a really nice double move, and that came off of a turnover because that was Gary and Conley who had an interception. Came early, 12:36 to go in the first quarter. And so that was a really nice play, the 23-yard touchdown pass from Carr to Jared Cook. And Cook remains the top target for Derek Carr.
Yeah, he's really,
Are there any quarterbacks, any wide receivers left, I should say?
Brandon LaFell came in and did good, but then it looked like he got injured late. But I want to talk about the Conley interception because you look at this game, the Raiders did something they have not done very often. They had they had two turnovers. Arizona had two turnovers. They were +2, right? And they've not been that way at all for 2 years. So the fact that the Raiders were +2 today is a big deal, and pretty sure that helped them win the game. So to me, again, in a season like this, Raider Nation, you're not going to be ever 100% happy. They're not going to make the playoffs. Khalil Mack is gone. Amari Cooper's gone. We get it. It's over with. You have to look for steady progress, improvement from the roster you do have, and not everything was perfect today. There were still a lot of warts on the frog, but at the same time, you did see things like that improve, and that's a good thing.
Now, we were talking as well here in our studios today about the lack of a presence with the Raider linebackers, right? So I heard the stats today. The Raider linebackers have not forced nor recovered a fumble, no interceptions, that remains intact, right? And no sacks on the season.
None.
And so we were watching them play today, and really not a lot of presence from the linebacking core. That's an area of concern that they're going to have to address in this offseason.
It is. They have a couple good young linebackers in Nick Morrow and in Markel Lee, but they're not quite there yet. They're not starters. They're not game changers, okay? But clearly it's an issue. I think the lack of sacks is more about scheme, actually, because Paul Gunther just doesn't blitz a lot. So you're not going to get linebackers coming through too much to get sacks. But certainly a huge concern, as are many other areas on this Raider club.
We're going to talk more about the Raiders. We'll talk more about the National Football League, hour number 2. Carrington Harrison from the Ticket 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City will join us. We are live from Las Vegas, and you're listening to the PG Las Vegas on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Hey there, sports.
The PG with Tony Cordasco and Scott Goldbranson on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, Las Vegas. Call now and rave about your team's Sunday stat line, 702-889-5978.
Back again together like Martin and Lewis, Cordasco and Goldbranson. Scott,
Sammy Davis Jr. and Sinatra.
Yeah, let's have a scoring update.
All right, let's catch you up. If you haven't heard, lock the kids up, turn down the lights. The Raiders have won. Yes, folks, they win the Bosa Bowl. There you go. Young David Stepanian. You wanted me to say Bosa Bowl. I said it. Oakland 23, Arizona 21 on a late Carlson field goal. So the Raiders move now to 2-8, and the Cardinals fall to 2-8. And this one in a little bit of a stunner, even though it was in the Mile High City, the Denver Broncos on a late Brandon McManus field goal, they beat the Los Angeles Chargers 23-22, and now the New Orleans Saints, they've extended their lead over the Philadelphia Eagles, who seem to be just falling apart. The New Orleans Saints lead with 5 left in the fourth quarter, 48-7 down in New Orleans. And that's the score update.
And this New Orleans Saints team has to definitely be reckoned with.
Oh,
And you look at the rest of their schedule, they've got Atlanta the next week, and then they pretty much have the Panthers twice more coming up here late in the season. And so it's not going to be it should be a cakewalk. It doesn't look that difficult. It's definitely manageable. Obviously the Panthers, even if they split, they still win that division going away. And I think come playoff time, this Saints team is definitely ready. You just can't stop them. And Drew Brees today has 4 touchdown passes.
You can't stop him, and I really believe, with all due respect, and I do respect Tom Brady for what he's done and the wins he's had and how clutch he's been. I just think overall it's going to be hard to argue after this year, which I think will end up being an MVP year for Drew Brees, that he's not the best quarterback. He's not the greatest of all time, because you look at the numbers, you look what he's been able to do, and certainly that looks like, to me, I'm convinced. I'm going to ride that horse to town, I'll tell you right now.
Speaking of horses, that Denver game actually was in San Diego, and not in San Diego.
Sorry. Whoa, Los Angeles.
I got you. Yeah, I got you. You got me. We're good.
So we're good.
We're good like that. So let's talk more about the Raiders. And so today in the game, let's talk about, so the receiving core. So Martavis Bryant is out. And
what receiving core?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then
Brandon LaFell.
We don't know. Yeah, but we don't know what was up with Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
Right. So they had him out. He was on the sidelines today. We don't know what his status is for the remainder of the season or even with his career. And so Brandon LaFell, has become a really good target.
Yes. You
said he got injured in the game. He collected a 5-yard touchdown pass, and he really has become one of Carr's favorites.
He has, and you know what? He's a wily veteran. He's gotten open for them, and he's not going to be your blinding speed guy. And we know the Raiders this year are not going deep often. Derek Carr doesn't have the time, nor is the offense structured right now for them to do that. So you have a guy like that who's a good possession clutch receiver who catches the ball. For the most part, he catches the ball, just like Jared Cook, who had a rare miss today, one right in his hands on the sideline. But other than that, I think that if you're the Raiders, you still have to be concerned. I thought Derek Carr, and I'm a Derek Carr defender. I just want to say it up front. I believe in the guy.
We call them apologists.
Apologists, okay. Well, but today, Tony, he looks shaky at times. I think that's why there was an issue. Now, I know getting rattled back there if you don't have time to throw is a big deal, but at the same time, he's making some mental mistakes that someone of his experience and caliber should not be making.
Okay, they did have one sack today that we saw, the Raiders. That was Maurice Hurst, and he's got now 4 sacks. So all things considered, this has been a pretty good rookie season for Mo Hurst.
Yeah, and if Mo Hurst can get some help, imagine that. Not only from the aforementioned invisible linebacking core, but also up front, right? P.J. Hall's been in and out injured. He's more of a project guy. Arden Key, the rookie, has not really done anything, so we're not sure what he's going to be like.
He missed a big tackle on a touchdown that was called back late in the game.
Yes, he did.
And the Raiders really should not have won that game. It was pretty iffy holding call against the Cardinals.
Right, and so they need, we all know they need help everywhere, but up front there, Mo Hurst, 4 of the team's 9 sacks on the season, right? 4 of the team's 9 sacks, unless I missed another sack today, but I don't think so. So to me, No, that was the only sack. So to me, he's got half the team. That shows you that this rookie came to play. He was a steal in the draft to begin with. He's pouring that out. And now if you can get more of an inside presence and then an edge rusher next year, Mo Hurst is going to be even better. So he's only going to get better.
You could tell that the Cardinals did, Byron Leftwich did a really good job of evaluating film because they ran a play that we saw earlier this season that went for 6, that went for a touchdown against the Raiders, and that was by the LA Chargers. So the Cardinals' Christian Kirk on that little slip screen pass just goes 59 yards like a breeze, untouched, and it looked like that Eckler touchdown right in the first meeting
game.
against the Chargers. Same play,
same
exact play.
And that's where you're going to see two things. If you have a team that has a complete lack of talent, or if you have a team that's a little bit of a mixture of both, which is a lack of talent and young players, you're going to see mistakes that happen again and again and again until you correct it. That's where coaching comes in. Now, you would think that several weeks later, they'd be able to do that. Now, the roster's changed quite a bit. But yes, and that's what the Raiders have done all season, Tony. They've been susceptible to the big play, and you saw it again today. 18-yard pass to Larry Fitzgerald, 59-yard pass, as you mentioned, to Kirk. So the Raiders, when they fail miserably and on a large scale.
You have to be pleased with their kicking game, though.
Yes,
yeah.
Kicking.
I mean, they win the game on a Daniel Carlson field goal as time expires in that contest. And, the Raiders, I wanted to talk to you again. So offensive line woes, we know about everything that's happened there. Colton Miller was in the game, and then he's out of the game. So he got hurt again?
But then he came back in. This kid, let me tell you something. The one thing you can say about Colt, he's had his lapses, okay? And Chris Reed over on silverandblacktoday.com did a great breakdown on Colton Miller. This kid is tough as nails, right? He might not be the most talented guy yet, but I like this kid because you know what happens? He gets knocked down, he goes right back in.
He was getting pushed back quite a bit today, once again.
Good
and,
defense.
His numbers were pretty good early on in the season, but coming into today's game, I saw that he had allowed 10 sacks and 39 pressures, and that's among the tops in the National Football League. And the one thing, and John Gruden knew this about him, the one thing is, off season, his strength and conditioning program is going to be intense.
Oh, it's going to be
They're
tough.
going to be working on him to get him just built.
Right.
He already has the frame. He's tall. He's rangy. And I think the most important aspect of his game is that he's very athletic for an offensive lineman. And then that toughness, mental toughness, and the durability. And when you see this guy get knocked down, it's his leg, it's his arm, it's his whatever, his shoulder. Like, he just keeps coming back, and they put him back in the game, and then he goes out. And, yes, he's getting beaten up a little bit. He's had some high points, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not going to say that it's been a total disaster for him.
No.
And you know what? You can't – I'm not going to fault this organization for drafting him because sooner or later that's going to be the guy that will be watching the backside of Derek Carr.
Derek Carr or someone. So I think
or quarterback X.
Quarterback X. But I do think I agree with you 100%. There's been ups and downs, but when you do see him play well and he does and covers his assignments the way he's supposed to cover them, it usually works out pretty well. Now, he's gone up against some tough guys who've beat him and showed the rookie a little bit about what it's like to play in the NFL. But to me, the character, Tony, the toughness is what you need up front with the big uglies. Now you just need to work on his strength and conditioning and his technique so he can reach his potential.
It was really nice that we were able to watch the Raiders game today because earlier in the week, that was in doubt. The local CBS affiliate, KLAS, was not going to show the game due to lack of interest. And it was a polarizing game to me to show, so they probably got good numbers, particularly near the end of the game, right? Because I'm rooting for the Raiders to lose and to tank it. And I know the Raider Nation and the diehard Raider fans are going, yeah, it'd be nice to have a win. There was so much drama packed into that Carlson field goal attempt because, like, seriously, do you want them to win, lose? Like, how did you feel out there?
Yeah, it's one of those deals where the Raiders are in the weirdest position that I think really any franchise has ever been in, and that is you're leaving your city and you're relocating in 2 years. It's not like the Colts who left in the middle of the night and went to Baltimore and became the Ravens, right? It was a totally different situation, or the Browns who left and they became the Ravens. Pardon me. And so with that situation, is your new market ready for you? And my answer is yes, and it showed because Raider Nation didn't take any crap. They called Channel 8 and told them what they thought, and Channel 8 relented.
Yeah, and they had to show the game, and luckily it was on. And come 2020, these games are going to be blacked out. So you might as well enjoy Raider football while you can on live TV, right? Local TV, free TV,
right.
Free TV.
Unless it's a sellout every game.
Yeah, like some people I know who say, who bailed on the Raiders, right? Stay tuned. Much more on the way on the PG. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
CBS Sports Radio.
The PG on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM. Your live, local NFL post-game experience. Call now and let Raiders Nation hear your Sunday best. 702-889-5978.
Welcome back to the PG. Carson Wentz. I mean, this just epitomized not just the game and the big loss today to the Saints, 48-7, but Wentz on the final play just throws a pass into the end zone that was picked off, but there's not one of his receivers around, and you have to believe that him and the wide receivers are just not on the same page. I mean, It happened repeatedly today, lack of communication, and now the defending Super Bowl champs are 4-6, but it's a logjam in that division.
Yeah, it's a terrible division, but the Eagles, I mean, it's like Carson came and went, right? I mean, what's going on there? I mean, you're right, he's not connecting with his receivers, but there's issues on that team all the way around, defense, offense, everything. And you just got to wonder how ugly it's going to get in Philly because the fans there are probably the most caustic in all of America.
We'll talk more about the Giants in a while here, but the Giants could be a team that's coming on, and those two teams will collide next week. And the Giants typically play very well against the Philadelphia Eagles in that rivalry, and we'll keep you updated on what's going on. And we'll talk about the Giants. We'll go in depth on that Eagle game once again as well in this show. And earlier today, let's take a look at some of the scores around the league, and let's take a deep dive into this Steelers-Jaguars game. Steelers win it 20-16. 5 seconds to go. Big Ben Roethlisberger on a rollout, calls his own number, scores a winning touchdown. They reviewed a replay to see if he crossed the plane. He did. He was going down, tried to dive towards the end zone, and ran into one of his offensive linemen. Basically who almost kept him out of the end zone. That could have been the end of that. But they would have. They still had a timeout, the Steelers. 5 seconds ago, they could have kicked the tying field goal there in that contest to send it into OT. But they score. They once again, I mean, what can you say about this team? I mean, no Le'Veon Bell, but, I mean, they continue to play at a high level and win games. And not the best passing game for Big Ben, 27-47, 314, 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. But the Steelers, right, Scott, when you look at the stats of this game, their rushing game was non-existent.
None, yeah.
11 carries for 26 yards total. And James Conner had 9 attempts, 2 for Ben Roethlisberger. Conner today with just 25 yards on the ground. They didn't need it. But is that going to be an issue as this season wears on?
Yeah, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of those teams that are just dangerous enough to make you think that they can make that run because they do have talent. They have an experienced Super Bowl winning quarterback. They have a good coach. And so you think, boy, this team's
a guy that
together.
Pump fakes at every turn.
Mr. Pump Fake.
Yeah, he's in the end zone and he's pump faking in the end zone after he scores.
Yes, and to
amazing.
Me, but if you look at this game, like you said, no running game, and when you get up against a real defense, now everybody thought Jacksonville's defense was going to be a real defense. It is not. In fact, the Jacksonville Jaguars are so going backward, it's unbelievable. Today, they killed themselves too. 11 penalties, 111 yards. They get 3 turnovers. I mean, how many times as a team can you turn over the ball 3 times and win?
Yeah, they stopped the run, so you know they're going to pass.
Right. And they still couldn't do it. They had 15 more minutes of time of possession than did the Steelers, Tony. So Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers down 16-0 early or late in the third quarter, I should say early in the third quarter. They score 20 unanswered on that Jacksonville defense. That team is completely in free fall.
So Antonio Brown comes off of a game against the Panthers, right, last week, and he caught all 6 of his targets, and he picks up today where he left off. He had 5 receptions, 117 yards, and he also was on the receiving end of a 78-yard touchdown reception. The Steelers now are 7-2-1, and the Jaguars are reeling, as you said, at 3-7. The Jaguars early on in this game, it was a field goal game back and forth and good defensive game, but the Jaguars, I was early on thinking that they might control this game and they might actually win it. But when you settle for a field goal, especially right in the NFL, rather than punching it in, that's when things go south.
Right.
That's when you allow your opponent in the National Football League to come back down the field and to score. And so they had, I think, it was 16-0, right?
Yeah, 16-0 in the third.
16-0 Jags.
Yeah.
And there was one drive that was just phenomenal because the Jaguars had a 9-minute drive. They consumed 9 minutes, and they wound up with a field goal. And then, anytime you do that psychologically, it's
a win for the defense.
Yeah, and here comes Big Ben.
Right.
Big Ben comes out on the field, and he's like, okay, but let's start trading 7s for 3s. But at that point, then, the Jaguars' offense just sputtered. And the Steelers, last week, they spread the ball all over the place, and they had 8 players that had a touchdown. Today, not so much. The Jaguars' defense really did not allow them to play that well.
No, and again, though, I mean, despite that, you look at that, you talked about those long drives. You go into the half with a 9-0 lead, which really should have been, if you manage those correctly and you have a better offense, it could have been 14-17, maybe 21-0. That's a whole different ball game. Then the mountain that Ben Roethlisberger must climb up, huffing and puffing, is much different than at 9-0 when you only down 2 scores. So that coupled with the fact that the Jaguars defense played well till late, okay, and I think this team lacks heart. Every time I watch them, they have talent and they never seem to close the door or get things right.
And then in that game as well, we saw one of the more athletic plays of the day, Jalen Ramsey, with an unbelievable interception in the end zone. And, that's the turnover that I think is going to hurt a team, right? Like the Steelers. And surprisingly, they could turn back, again, the Jaguars in this contest. And they didn't score on that possession, but he picks it off, tips it to himself, doesn't get contact, avoids that in the end zone as he's falling down, gets up, and he runs for another, 30, 40 yards.
Yeah.
That was a great play.
I mean, it was a great play. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out in the highlights because it was fantastic. And that's the thing. It's not that Jacksonville doesn't have the talent. They have talent there. For whatever reason, I think offensively, and Bortles looked good in the first half, I have to say. When he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's horrible. And so I think it's a lack of consistency on offense, and then defense. You just can't keep it up. If you're going to get a win, you need to be able to shut down teams at key moments, and they're not able to do it.
The Texans defeated the Redskins today, 23-21. Don't look now, but that team from Houston, the win streak has been extended to 7. So 7 wins in a row. The highlighted play with the Texans leading 10-7 in the contest. The Skins were driving when Alex Smith throws the ball behind his intended receiver.
Smith to the end zone. Intercepted! Picked off by Justin Reed, the rookie, up the sideline, and he is going to go! 101 yards.
And that was, covered 101 yards pretty quick.
I'm
that soundbite. And he is going to go
101 yards.
101 yards like that.
And I'm winded just hearing it.
I mean, wow, that's a record there from end zone to end zone. But, I mean, that was an ill-advised pass. But I guess the worst news of the day comes as Alex Smith gets J.J. Watt, another player defensively, rolling up on him.
Yeah.
And he injures his leg, and this was a gruesome injury. You're not going to believe this, right? So this was a gruesome injury that came exactly 33 years to the day of the Joe Theismann broken leg injury.
That is crazy.
Is that crazy what?
That is that's like goosebump.
I mean, I knew that I read it and we
he didn't
researched it, and
he didn't have a compound fracture like Theismann though, where the bone was coming out.
No.
But it was ugly anyway. I mean,
but I watched that game live.
Yeah.
I did not see this one live. We were going around and watching a lot of games here today, but we did see the replay and the injury and all that, and it was horrible.
Well, and Alex Smith was having a horrible game, by the way. He was not having a good game. But the Redskins coming into the game at 6-4 were really in the driver's seat in that division, right? And now you lose your quarterback, and who's the backup? Colt McCoy. So, boy, the poor Redskins, man, I feel bad for them. They lose their number 1 draft pick. Okay, running back blows his knee out, and now you lost your quarterback.
Adrian Peterson of the game, 16 rushes, 51 yards. And Colt McCoy, they're going to have to live with him. When he comes in, he leads the Redskins to a very long touchdown drive, and so that was good. And at the final gun, Dustin Hopkins misses a long 63-yard field goal for the Redskins. And the final, once again, Texans 23, Redskins 21. More on the way right after this on the PG from CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, Las Vegas. Call now and rave about your team's Sunday stat line, 702-889-5978.
Scott, how many times today did I mention to you how much I like the old school Redskin uniforms?
You did a lot, actually.
15. It was 15 times.
But you also said that you like to wear women's socks, so I don't know.
No, it's onesies. Demaryius Thomas today, we were talking about that game, and Demaryius Thomas today, 2 targets, 1 catch that was waved off by a penalty, and they never threw in his direction again. That's what happened today. It's kind of nuts. And, we were telling you about that Alex Smith injury, and Deshaun Watson is ever the class act. So on his Twitter feed today, prayers and well wishes go out to Alex Smith, a pro in every sense of the word. My thoughts are with you, my boy. That's really cool. That's
he's
very
a good.
nice.
I love that kid.
Oh, he's a great kid. He does so much in the community, and he's just the best.
He's a good football player, too.
Yeah, and you want him to win, right? You want him to succeed.
Absolutely.
The Giants in Tampa Bay. That was an interesting game today. Giants win it 38-35. And if you have a porous defense, I've got to ask you this. Why would you defer to kick off the game? Why would you defer? So Tampa, from the very beginning of this game, was behind the 8 ball. They've got one of the worst defenses. They allow 400 yards per game. They are 25th in the league in total defense. And so why would they defer? So the Buccaneers defer the kickoff. The Giants drive the field. The highlight was an OBJ 41-yard reception from Eli Manning. I like the mixture of run and pass now. The last couple of weeks for the Giants, although they're not playing high-caliber teams here. Okay, San Francisco and Tampa Bay. And then, so Barkley has a 6-yard touchdown run. He's got a 5-yard run, a late touchdown run. Really, I mean, this is he's the Rookie of the Year. He's got to be, Rookie of the Year. He's got to be.
I agree, but I'm going to defer my answer till later in the show. No,
okay. I
actually like them deferring. I know how bad the defense is, but you're trying to get your defense. You're trying to get something going. You want to show them.
There's nobody left on that defense for Tampa.
Right.
I think I saw Jameis Winston playing safety.
He's never safe.
No, he was playing for the Giants though, because he threw a late interception. He came into the game late.
Yeah. But I'll tell you too something, Tony, and that is the kind of thought that Eli Manning has done. I know New York wants that to be true because I understand they want to turn the page and move on, go to the future. I don't disagree necessarily, but I don't think Eli Manning is that bad. In fact, even though he says his footwork is as fast as ever, I don't believe that.
That was the worst interview ever that I've heard ever of all time on Mike Francesa.
And he might have been punking people. Because I thought it was pretty. I mean, it was so out of touch.
It was so out there that it might have just been a joke.
It might have been a joke. But either way, he's still got some. If he gets protection and he can get passes out to Odell Beckham and he can get things moving, he's efficient enough. He doesn't have to be a superstar quarterback anymore. He doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have to be even Patrick Mahomes and score 1 million touchdowns. All he's got to do is be efficient, and that's what he was today. And look, they scored 38 points.
And so in this game, though, you thought the Giants might be running away. Suddenly the Bucs make a game of it. They narrow the lead 31-28 with just 4 minutes to go. And then Manning finds, I think it was Ingram on a big play, a slant pattern, and then it puts them in the red zone, and then Barkley with the 2-yard touchdown run. But then Tampa comes back with the big touchdown. Mike Evans, it was Jameis Winston who came into the game in relief of Ryan Fitzpatrick. And in all, this turned out to be a good back-and-forth game and a nice game to watch, fun game to watch. And one of the highlights that we have here is Eli Manning connecting with Odell Beckham Jr.
3rd down and 5 to the end zone. Did he come down in bounds is a question for Odell Beckham Jr., and it's signaled a touchdown.
Strong hands.
Oh, boy. Does he ever.
That's what they say about me, strong hands.
Not on this show. The Giants, so as we have, OBJ, his talk after the bye week, hey, we're going to come out. We're going to win out. Stay with us. We're not quitting.
And people made fun of him.
And they laughed at him. Okay, they won 2 games in a row, but they easily could have lost both of them.
Yeah.
And not against the top, the cream of the crop in the NFL, nor in their division. But now Here is the rest of their schedule. So the Giants next week play at Philly. Then they host Chicago. Then they're at the Redskins. Then they host the Titans, which is an up-and-down team.
Mm-hmm.
They're at Indianapolis, which could be an L. And then they close it out with the Cowboys. So they have Philly, the Redskins, and the Cowboys out of the remainder of their schedule within their division. And the Giants now are 3-7. And they could, either turn it around and wind up with an 8-8 or 9-7 season, or they could really confuse things, mess things up there in the NFC East, which is so tight.
Is there a possibility that they could win go 5-1 over the last 6 weeks? Yes.
Yes.
But
the L would not be Chicago because they have Chicago at home, Indianapolis. But again, towards the end of the season, you just don't know if teams are done, or if they have anything to play for, or what happens.
Well, and then you have like a Dallas, which they've played well of late, but then sometimes get into a funk. So if you look at, I think Philly's done. I think Philly's just they're just done.
What happened to that team? No running game, no rushing game, obviously.
And
the defense today just looked bad, and then the lack of communication again between Carson Wentz and his receivers. There's nothing.
Well, and so to me, if you get to a situation where you're the Giants and you need to win 5 out of 6, I think the Colts. I actually think they could win that Colts game, even though it's on the road. But at the same time, to me, the Dallas game and I think Washington's going to be an easy win now because they don't have a quarterback. They're just going to be rudderless in my view, even though they lead the division now. So they could easily get to that 5 win. I don't think they can win 6, Tony. I just don't see it happening.
I think what I like. I think that this offense has finally found a little bit of a groove.
They have,
and they're giving some more protection. They changed their blocking schemes up front on the offensive line, and they're doing a much better job in protecting Eli Manning.
Well, and I know OBJ isn't looked at as kind of the on-field leader that people want, but his statement...
It gets me excited, though.
Well, he does.
Because he's got so much energy.
But his statement that we're going to run the table, that shows to him and shows his teammates that he has confidence in them. Whether or not he believed it doesn't matter. What matters is he's saying to them, look, I'm challenging you. We can do this. Let's go do this. And to me, that is a big deal. And I think you probably saw some of that come out today.
It was the return of JPP to New York, and he got injured late in that game. And Jameis Winston, on the final possession, throws an interception, and the Giants steal that win.
Are you down with JPP?
I'm down with JPP. You know me?
You know me.
Yeah, you know me. From the studios of CBS Sports, 1140 a.m. in Las Vegas, this is the PG. Coming up in hour number 2, Carrington Harrison from the Ticket 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City will be with us. We'll talk much, much more about the Raiders and the NFL. Don't go away. You're listening to the PG right here on CBS Sports 1140 a.m.
way you can take CBS Sports Radio 1140 with you is the radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. It's the PG, your weekly go-to football post-game show in Las Vegas. The PG, scores, highlights, guests, and storylines from the Raiders and the NFL. It's your time to sound off and shout about the day's highs and lows. Call now, 702-889-5978. Here's Scott Goldbranson and your host, Tony Cordasco.
Our guest in hour number 2, Carrington Harrison from the Ticket 610 Sports Radio, Kansas City, will be our guest as we preview the upcoming Chiefs-Rams game coming up on Monday Night Football. It'll be a doozy, as they say, and that's the game.
Humdinger.
That's the game that they moved from Mexico City. So the Rams have been practicing all week in Colorado Springs for the altitude of Los Angeles. That's why. Isn't that it? No? Let's take a look at the scoreboard now. Sorry, Scott.
You got me, man.
I know. I tried to catch you there. That was a bad one. Let's take a look at the scoreboard from the afternoon's game as everything now goes finals.
Everything is final. We have
Final,
the
not finals.
Saints win again, 48-7 over the world champion, not much longer, Philadelphia Eagles. They are in a free fall, ladies and gentlemen. It was the Broncos with a late boot to beat the Chargers 23-22 in AFC West action. Also in AFC West action, your future Las Vegas Raiders moved to 2-8 on the year. That's right, folks, 2-8, 23-21 win over the Redbirds, the Cardinals, down in Glendale, Arizona. It was the Houston Texans 23, the Washington Redskins 21. It was the New York Giants 38 over the Buccaneers 35. 16 points the Jaguars score. It was not enough as the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger take down the Jags 20-16. The Colts, they kick the Titans right in the rear 38-10. It was the Lions on top of the Panthers thanks to a boneheaded call at the end of the game, 20-19. Ravens 24, Bengals 21. It was the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what they say. 22 to 19 over the high-flying Falcons. And coming up later tonight, it is the Bears. They host the Vikings in a massive NFC Central matchup. You're up to date on your scoreboard here on the PG and LV.
But before it was the NFC Central, it was the black and blue division. It really was, and I think they're returning to form there. It's good that the Bears are good, right?
Yeah.
And the Vikings at
unless
home,
you're a Raider
it's going to
fan.
be tough. It's going to be that should be a good game.
Yeah.
Yes, unless you are a Raider fan. So,
Draft pick.
In case you tuned in late, in hour number 1, Scott, let's just recap. So the Raiders win on a last-second field goal by Daniel Carlson, his third field goal of the game, and the Raiders win the contest today in Arizona. Now, the main story that comes out of that is, again, the turmoil on the sidelines for the Raiders. So John Gruden and Derek Carr get into a little bit of a spat, and it appeared as though the team might implode at that point. And then we've been seeing reports of a Lee Smith altercation with Gruden, but I haven't seen anything viral on that.
No, we saw one report or a couple reports from media folks. So one was ESPN claiming that he had grabbed Gruden by the neck, according to secondhand information. We have not seen any of that at all. We did see the John Gruden not very happy with Derek Carr. Derek Carr throwing up his arms in frustration. That altercation, it shouldn't even be an altercation. The disagreement, the kind of heated exchange, if you will, on the sideline. And so we saw that. The other stuff, I don't know. It's a tough year. But then at the end of the game, they were kissing each other. So, it ups and downs when you win and lose. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, that is the way it goes. And to me, it really wasn't much of an altercation.
Right.
It just appeared as though Carr comes off the field and says, hey, we're not communicating very well. This guy was supposed to run a route to the left. He goes to the right. And Gruden's like, why did you throw the ball and what did you do? And again, they have a disagreement, but they have to communicate at some point, and that's the major part of the game.
Well, and here's the thing. In my view, if I was Gruden, I actually would have yelled at Carr even more, because what brought this about was the Raiders drew a 5-yard penalty for calling consecutive timeouts. Okay, you can't do that, all right? You can't call consecutive timeouts. It moved what was a 3rd and 2 situation to 3rd and 7. They failed to convert, and afterwards you saw that. Okay, so to me, you can't be a fifth-year quarterback and call 2 consecutive timeouts. I mean, you can't brain fart that bad. You just can't.
You can't.
And again, I like Derek Carr. I defend Derek Carr, but I can understand why he was upset. And then Derek Carr should just come to the sideline and say, you know what, Coach, you're right. Don't throw up your hands and get frustrated. Just say, you're right. I screwed up. Let's do it. Forget it.
Are you as surprised as I am that the Raiders actually knew what to do in the 2-minute drill today? Because
they look good. Yeah.
They knew exactly what they were doing. And, Gruden was jumping up and down and getting the team to move, get back to line of scrimmage, spike the ball so that you could set up the Carlson final field goal. And they actually executed that very well. And also the drive to put them in the position to kick the game-winning field goal was very good. Yeah. It was very good. They looked like a team that they knew what to do.
Well, and it looked good. I mean, you look at the offense. The offense has been so poor. And to see them get the ball, they ran the ball well in the first half. I don't see any reports about Doug Martin being injured. I don't know what happened there. They just stopped playing him.
He had a good first half.
They just stopped playing him. We did know Brandon LaFell did really well too. He has an Achilles tendon injury of some sort, which is not good. So I don't know what the Raiders are going to do. They were already razor thin at wide receiver.
Are they going to use Marcel Aitman at all?
I don't know what happened with Aitman today. They didn't get any targets today.
No, he got no targets whatsoever. So that's a guy that I think can bust out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he just needs repetitions, and they have to throw him the football.
No, and they're going to have to go get, some guys that are on the street, like Brandon Marshall's on the street. You might have to go get a guy like that to finish the season because they just need bodies at this point.
Yeah, they need and some good bodies that are going to block.
Right.
Because that's what they're going to have to do probably is run. And, we'll take more of a look at the Raiders, obviously, during the course of our show here. And we're going to recap today's games that we did not recap in the first hour. And let's take a look at the Ravens and the Bengals. The Ravens defeat the Bengals today 24-21. And I still don't understand how Marvin Lewis has a job. And I still don't understand how Marvin Lewis gets the approval to hire Hugh Jackson as part of your coaching staff.
This is one thing.
Condoleezza Rice is out there. He should have hired her.
Condoleezza Rice, yes, the future coach of the Browns. Here's the thing. This is something, and Tony, you've been around sports
Maybe
a lot.
Condoleezza Rice can play wide receiver.
She might be able to. She's had to deal
with
the
Raiders.
She had to deal with a lot of things thrown her way, so that might happen. To me, though, the coaching ranks, and I think it's perhaps worst in the NFL than any other sport, and that is recycle. Guys, and I believe and trust loyalty. I love loyalty amongst people. Don't get me wrong. But you see it in the NFL. It's such a close-knit group of people, and they just continue to recycle. I mean, how many jobs has Norv Turner had? I mean, and I'm not saying he's not a good, brilliant offensive mind.
He should just be an offensive coordinator.
Right.
He's not a guy that's tailored for a head coaching position.
Right.
He does not have that skill set.
But my point is, Hugh Jackson gets fired, he gets a job immediately. Guys, and I'm not saying because he's not getting hired as a head coach, but still, it moves around. So, yeah, the Bengals, I don't know. That organization, to me, is perplexing. I just don't know what they want. I guess they're comfortable making the playoffs. I think, Chaz, you told me like 5 years in a row or something like that. So it's like, I guess they're happy with that, and that's what they're going to ride. They're going to ride Marvin Lewis until, I guess, he does something egregious, and then they'll get rid of him.
The winning margin was provided by Justin Tucker. A 24-yard field goal with 8:12 to go in the game. That was the final scoring. And the Ravens, with Joe Flacco out, Lamar Jackson gets the start. And Jackson's a guy that can beat you with his arm and, of course, with his legs. And so he rushed the football for 117 yards, very first start, 27 carries. It's a different type of offense, and you have to hand it to teams that could change the entire complexion of their offense.
Yeah.
Based on the quarterback or different personnel that you have to put into the game. And so Jackson today, I liked the first drive of the game. They really made a statement where they just ran the ball. There were no passing attempts. And so what that does, though, a lot of times you'll get a quarterback into a little bit of a tempo, those little swing passes. But if the running game is working, though, just keep grinding it out. That's exactly what they did.
Well,
and then Jackson also had 150 passing yards to boot.
He had 150 passing yards. He had the one pick, but that's, as a rookie, you're going to see guys make read mistakes all the time. But what I liked about it is that he showed every bit of why he was a Heisman Trophy winner, right, in 2016. Because his elusiveness in the backfield and when he rolls out of the pocket is tremendous. And if I'm the Ravens, I mean, it's only one game. I get it. But if I'm the Ravens, I'm starting to think already that, boy, Joe Flacco, unless you come back next week, Joe Flacco, I think you're probably done with the Ravens because it's time to move towards the future. They got their guy. They need to let him play.
So Marvin Lewis, the aforementioned Marvin Lewis, calling defensive plays today for the first time, I think, since 2003, because he fired his defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, who had a string of 4 or 5 weeks consecutively of 500 yards given up on defense. Now, there was a little bit of a better attack defensively today, but not much. Another note coming out of this game, remember, you and I were talking about this morning. I'm like, so RG3 is activated for the Ravens.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to utilize him. They did.
Yeah.
As a wide receiver,
As
a decoy. So they had to, more or less make sure that they were aware defensively of where he was at on the field. But RG3 is back. And then Joe Mixon had a touchdown run for the Bengals. Dalton to Langle for a touchdown. And that was one of the plays, I think, defensively for the Ravens that they had to be concerned about because, again, we watch all the games here during the course of the day, and it was a wide-open receiver over the middle, and, there was no defense at that time.
Yeah, there wasn't. And yeah, it was one of those deals. And they fire their defensive coordinator, the Bengals do. You said all the consecutive games of 500 yards. Paul Gunther's in Oakland, not having a great season either. So in that equation, nobody won. But, man, you pull a guy in the middle of the season, that's a tough one to do. It just is.
Stay with us. Carrington Harrison will be joining us when we return from the Ticket 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City. Stay tuned. Much more on the way. The PG Las Vegas coming to you live from CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The PG with Tony Cordasco and Scott Goldbranson on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, Las Vegas. Call now and rave about your team's Sunday stat line, 702-889-5978.
Carrington Harrison joins us now from the Ticket 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City as we take a look at the Chiefs versus Rams game coming up in Los Angeles Monday night. How you doing, Carrington?
Hey, how you guys doing? I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming on. We always invite people that have 1 million social media followers, so it's a big plus. And hey, I wanted to ask you to start things off here. So they moved the game from Mexico City to Los Angeles. When the game was about to be played, in Mexico City, the players were talking about a boycott. How real was that in your mind?
I think it was pretty real. I believe Adam Schefter. There aren't many people when it comes to NFL reporting. He said it today. Jay Glazer said that Kareem Hunt and Todd Gurley were two players that said they were going to hold out from this game. I really think it was a chance, and I think the NFL was going to be put in a really, really bad situation. I think we all know that the NFL has tried to be a lot more player conscientious when it comes to safety. I've always been critical of the NFL because it feels like that player safety only results to one position on the field. If you don't play quarterback, they don't really seem too concerned about your health. I just don't know how the NFL, given the risk that could have potentially happened on the field in Mexico, I just don't know how they could have played that game there. I'm happy they made that decision sooner rather than later, and the game's going to be played in Los Angeles like it probably should have been from the beginning.
Yeah, Carrington, hey, it's Scott Branson. Good to talk to you again, man. I'm still waiting for my Gates combo sandwich. I need you to FedEx me that. So, but nonetheless, hey, question though. So the game, of course, as you mentioned, probably should have been in LA anyway. But for the Chiefs going down to Mexico, yes, a home game for the Rams, but really sort of a neutral site. Any sense from them that they had any care at all that it was going to be in LA instead on the Rams' home turf?
No, I think a lot of the Chiefs were actually happy that the game has got moved. We had Dee Ford on our show on Friday, and he was saying, I'm happy the game's not in Mexico. I'm happy I don't have to go. A couple of Chiefs players told me off the record that they didn't want to go to Mexico either. So I think both sides are probably happy that this game got moved to Los Angeles. And again, this is probably where it should be, in the Coliseum, their first Monday night game since 1985. Two of the 3-4 best teams in the NFL, two of the top young quarterbacks in the NFL. This game's going to be a lot of fun.
We have the highest total of all time because it's a betting town here, and I'm sure people on the DL, gamble in other cities too. But so the highest point total of all time in the city. Now, it was at 64. It's down to 63.5. Do you think we'll see every bit of 64 points scored in this game?
I do, man. I look at both of these teams, and I think they're very similar when it comes defensively. The Chiefs' defense has done a good job, and the Rams. Whenever you play bottom 10, bottom 12 quarterbacks in the NFL, whenever you play quarterbacks that are capable, neither defense has really showed the ability. And think about the biggest games that we've seen so far this season. The very beginning of the year, we thought that Rams and Vikings was going to be an NFC Championship game preview. That game was 38-31. We think back to Chiefs and Patriots on Sunday Night Football. That game was 43-40. When we think back a couple weeks ago when it was Rams and Saints, that game was 45-35. That I think in 2018 you always have to side with the defense, with the offense. I don't think we've seen that you can play quality defense in 2018.
Yeah, and again, we're talking to Carrington Harrison from Sports Radio 610 in Kansas City about the Chiefs and the Rams coming up tomorrow night. Now, Carrington, I look at, of course, Patrick Mahomes, the story of the year in the NFL thus far. Just amazing year for a 23-year-old kid. And you and I talked on Silver and Black today on the PG before, about the fact that comes from his background, being around his dad in Major League Baseball and how he's calm, he's collected. Now, they come into this game, and I'm thinking, yes, the Rams have a great defensive front. They have a good pass rush. But to me, Mahomes is going to be able to get around that. Somebody like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, I think these guys on national TV are going to put on a show that you're not going to want to miss.
No, absolutely. I think there are three players that you can consider unstoppable that the other team just doesn't really have an answer for. Knowing the Chiefs' run defense, I think they're going to have a tough time with Todd Gurley. I mean, he's probably been the best offensive non-quarterback in the NFL. He seems like a guaranteed 100-yard, one-touchdown kind of day. I don't think the Rams have any answer for Tyreek Hill, as you alluded to. When you think about the weakness of the Los Angeles Rams, it's probably the cornerback position. The injury to Aqib Talib has been a big deal. And Marcus Peters has just been flat-out bad this season. I don't really think they have an answer for him. And, I mean, Aaron Donald has been the best defensive player in the NFL. I think those are probably the three unstoppable players in this. Not saying that other guys can't have a good day, but I think this is kind of one of those, that Marshall Faulk old quote of big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. I mean, there's about 7 or 8 legitimate all-pro candidate top players in this game.
Carrington Harrison from the Ticket 610 in Kansas City joins us. And are you hearing a lot from fans, Chiefs fans there in Kansas City about, having to cancel their travel plans to go to Mexico City? Because this is a mess, right? Because there were a lot of fans planning to go to the game, and has it caused a lot of disruption in their lives?
No, absolutely. I actually know 2 sets of friends myself that they had planned to make the trip to Mexico, and now that this has kind of been a little bit of an inconvenience, it kind of stinks for Chiefs fans. To take you back a little bbit, the Chiefs, they gave up a home game to play in London against the Lions. That game was the same day as Game 5 of the 2015 World Series. So Chiefs fans didn't get an opportunity to, if you made the London trip, you didn't get a chance to be in Kansas City for the World Series. And this game, you had it circled at the very beginning of the season. You were really looking forward to it. The return game against Marcus Peters, everyone was really excited about it. You book your plane tickets to Mexico, and the game's not even played in Mexico. Chiefs fans that have made the travel internationally have definitely gotten the short end of the stick over the last 3 years.
Yeah, and if they decide to go to Los Angeles, they're going to have to deal with perhaps air quality because of the fires down there, unfortunately. So just a tough thing. But the game itself, we know, is going to be fantastic. I mean, Mahomes and Goff. The Chiefs, you and I talked last time you were on with us about that Chiefs defense, which, of course, is not very good. You don't need to have a great defense in the NFL anymore. But what are the Chiefs going to have to do to at least keep the Rams at bay enough that they can outscore them?
I think, as I said earlier, I don't think you can get stops in 2018. I don't think that's realistic, that you're going to limit points, that you're going to limit yards. I've been saying all week on my show that I think the key to the NFL now, if you've got a really good offense like the Chiefs and the Rams do, is you got to try to get 3 stops. If you can get 3 stops over the course of the game, I think you have a chance to win. I heard this stat earlier today. One of my good friends, Nick Wright on FS1, he said that 84% of drives that have a sack at any point in that drive don't result in another first down after the sack or a touchdown. That sacks have become default, the new turnover. That if you can get pressure on the quarterback, if you can create pressure and you can get a sack, that can effectively help you get off the field at some point later in the drive. But I think the 6 most important players on the defense on both sides are on the Rams. It's Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh and Dante Fowler. For the Chiefs, it's Dee Ford, Chris Jones, and Justin Houston. I think when we look back at this game on Tuesday or Monday night, and we figure out which team won, I think it's going to be the combination of those 3 players on either side who played the best.
I say to look for the offenses to be the defense because they're 2 explosive teams, right, that can score on any given play. And if they can sustain drives, it's going to keep the defense fresh and off the field, right? I mean, you'd have to consider that the offenses at some point might want to run the ball or get into some sort of a rhythm to kind of take the air out of, get their defenses off the field, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really the Chiefs kind of game. Like, the Chiefs they're not the 12-play, 90-yard drive kind of team. They're kind of the fast break, 6 plays, 80 yards, 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, that concerns me. Yeah.
Play. And then, if you think back to it, that Chiefs and Patriots game, then the second half of it, I think, is maybe the best offensive half that we've seen in the NFL so far. I think this game is going to kind of mirror that a little bit. I just don't think that either team's either team's defense is really equipped to stop what the other team can do offensively. And when you think back to these quarterbacks and just the rule changes and everything, I don't know how this game hits the under.
Now, a lot of folks are looking at this in the brief. We got about 30 seconds left, Carrington. A lot of people looking at this as maybe perhaps a Super Bowl preview. Of course. Now, the New Orleans Saints might have something to say that they're really hot. But what do you think the Chiefs are going to have to do the rest of the season past the Rams to make sure that they can make a deep run into the playoffs?
I think the Chiefs need to get the 1 seed just because of the New England Patriots. I mean, I know the Patriots maybe haven't been the dominant team they've been in years past, but it's still Brady and Belichick in January, and I don't want any parts of traveling to Foxborough. If the Chiefs can continue to have the 1 seed and the road to the Super Bowl goes through Arrowhead, I'll pick the Chiefs. But again, I'm not picking against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick at home in January.
Now, do you think that Mahomes has to get out of the pocket in this game on Monday night?
I think Mahomes is one of the few quarterbacks. I think there's probably 3 elite quarterbacks when we talk about throwing the ball outside the pocket. I think it's Rodgers, Wilson, and Patrick Mahomes. That I think Denver tried that plan earlier in the season to try to flush him out of the pocket and try to get him to throw on the move. And he was dangerous outside the pocket. He had 194 yards out of the pocket. And I think kind of the plan's been the opposite. If they keep Mahomes in the pocket, not allow him to improvise, and not allow him to make big plays with his legs.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's Carrington Harrison from the Ticket 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City. Stay tuned. Much more on the way on the PG Las Vegas right here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
1140 AM. Your live, local NFL post-game experience. Call now and let Raiders Nation hear your Sunday best. 702-889-5978.
Welcome back. There's no score in the first quarter. The Bears and the Vikings.
Bears.
And in case you missed, there was some really big news today. Condoleezza Rice is being considered.
Coach Rice.
Condoleezza Rice is being considered as the head coach for the Cleveland Browns.
And they're under pressure, as they were then. They have a tendency when they're under pressure, under sanctions, to come to the table, to go on a kind of charm offensive.
Go on a charm offensive.
That was exclusive audio.
Yeah, that's good.
From Condoleezza Rice.
From the locker room.
No, she was in line at Pinkberry, and we caught up with her.
Oh, is that where it was? Yeah, no, but that's terrific. Are you kidding me? So that comes out.
Smart lady. I mean,
okay, but that
amazing.
comes out from Adam Schefter, right?
Who's mostly accurate.
He's very credible.
Yeah, he is.
He's very credible. And so he comes out with that this morning, and within 2 hours, it is refuted. And the Browns said, no, we are not trying to recruit Condoleezza Rice to be our next head coach. But she would be very well suited as the president of the Cleveland Browns because that position's open.
Yeah, and you just got to wonder.
Because they're going to recruit me to be their new head coach. That's the real reason.
The issue, though, is.
Just throw the stinking ball.
Remember, in the PR business, you call it like a trial balloon. Like, we're going to.
Yeah. Just throw it out there to kind of see what's happening, get some feedback. See what America thinks, right?
And maybe they're considering a female coach, and it's not Condoleezza Rice.
Yes, I know, but they've mentioned that they are looking into all possibilities: robots, female, head coaches, the whole nine, whatever it's going to.
They're going to have an AI coach.
But are there any women that are assistant coaches in the NFL?
No, but I don't know. I mean,
are there any in college football? I don't know, but it's going to happen in our lifetime.
Sure,
and
I hope so.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
But I don't know if now's the time.
I'm telling you.
It's not going to be Condoleezza Rice, for crying out loud.
Do you know who Watson is?
It could be Harry Potter.
Do you know who Watson is? Watson. Not Sherlock Holmes Watson.
Okay.
Watson, the computer, IBM, the big AI computer.
Okay.
It's like it plays chess and all that stuff.
All right, yeah.
I think that's what the Browns should hire a computer.
Because that's what they do.
They can't do any worse than Hugh Jackson.
No, but that's what they do anyway.
Exactly.
They just go, based
analytics.
On all of
hire a computer.
All
you
the
have to pay it anything.
They take the numbers, they punch them in a computer, and that's their game plan now. That's the game plan.
Right. You don't have to pay it. You have to pay for it, but you don't have to pay it.
I think anyone can coach right now.
Really?
Well, if you can understand when you go for two and when you don't, then anyone can coach. If you have that understanding, folks, then you can coach. You can coach the Browns. Okay, let's get back to the game, okay? Because we have a bunch more to recap here on the show. So Indianapolis defeats the Titans today. So Andrew Luck now is 10-0. 10-0 against Tennessee. And I think that we need to start taking this Colts team a little bit more serious. They're 5-5. They're starting to play their best football of the season. 3 more touchdown passes for Andrew Luck. And again, he does not get sacked. Amazing. So that's incredible. So 7 consecutive games with 3 touchdowns or more for Andrew Luck. And so he's
the third longest streak.
Is that it?
The third longest streak
moving up the
in
ranks.
A single season in NFL history.
So who's ahead of him, I might ask?
Tom Brady.
Right. Condoleezza Rice. That's the answer to
Tom Brady.
Today. Yeah.
10 consecutive games in 2007. Jamarcus Russell. No, I'm just kidding. Peyton Manning.
Man.
Peyton Manning with 8 consecutive in 2004.
Wow. So one of the highlights today in the second quarter of play was this 68-yard hookup for Luck to T.Y. Hilton.
Luck, deep shot down the field, T.Y. Hilton. He's got him. Hilton on his feet. 5 end zone. Touchdown. 68 yards.
That's the 5th touchdown of the season for T.Y. Hilton, and it's the second 100-yard-plus day for him this year. 9 receptions, 155 yards. The Titans, really tough day. So quarterback Marcus Mariota, they believed might have injured his right elbow in the final minute of the first half, so he's being evaluated. And then the Titans defensive coordinator, did you see this? So Dean Pease was taken out of the press box in a wheelchair.
Amazing.
And they said that he felt ill, and so Mike Vrabel had to take over the defensive calls. So that could have been a factor of sorts. Everything was just going south today for the Titans. And they were a team, that was starting to play better. Had, a string of a couple of games in a row where they played very well. And thankfully, because I don't like the Patriots, they took them down. So
well, and I mean that the pass you played to T.Y. Hilton, I'd rather score with Paris Hilton myself, but they score with T.Y. Hilton. And but if you look at Andrew Luck, 161 touchdown passes now, Tony, in 80 career games. He's joined Hall of Famer Dan Marino, who's got 182, and Aaron Rodgers with 160 as the only players in history with at least 160 touchdown passes in 80 career games. Andrew Luck is getting. We talked about this before when the Raiders played them, if you remember, and that is the reason they're able to win and doing so well offensively is they have a great offensive line. That offensive line protects Andrew Luck. Okay, and how they're going right now, I wouldn't want to play them. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, we watched them up close when we watched the Raiders game in its entirety here. Yeah. When they took it to the Raiders, and then we watched a bulk of the game today, and that's been the big difference is their offensive line is playing well, but their defense is also starting to gel together as well, and that's going to be a tough out there if they make it into the playoffs. And, you have to believe that it's been a good thing to have, Frank Reich there, with Andrew Luck, because it's a quarterback, talking to another quarterback, right?
No, it's no doubt. I mean,
and he didn't try to strangle him today. No, I'm just kidding about that. That was another game that we saw.
That was another coach and quarterback.
Yeah. So we've got Dallas today. How about that? The Cowboys with a 22-19 victory over Atlanta, over the Falcons in Atlanta. Brett Maher with a 42-yard field goal, and this was the game winner as time expired.
It is up and through! The Cowboys win
it! I think I saw Jerry Jones with a few Hail Marys, and not passes. Not passes. I think he went to a novena. If people know what that
Something
is.
tells me, though, that his Marys are not the Blessed Mother. They're probably other Marys.
Okay. So a 42-yard field goal at the final gun for Brett Maher. Julio Jones now 3 weeks in a row, right, for the Falcons?
Me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
Okay,
absolutely.
A minute 52 to go. He has a 34-yard touchdown reception that ties the game, but then, of course, the Cowboys drive for the winning field goal. What about Julio Jones? Someone on the Cowboys, was it Hunt? Somebody in the secondary for the Cowboys went up to make an interception.
Oh, and just clocked him.
And then Julio Jones just clocks. He just lays him out cold. I mean,
it was a good old school hit, and there was no penalty flag. But you know what? You got to look, I'm not the biggest fan, but Dak Prescott, fourth quarter game-winning drive.
I like him. I like him.
That's a big deal.
Are there many quarterbacks that I don't like?
No, you like everybody.
I always say I like them.
Especially Sam Darnold.
No, but I like the young talent in the league.
Young talent, yeah.
And I just think that they need to help out Dak Prescott a little bit more.
Yeah, they have to. They try to do that getting Amari Cooper. They need a tight end. I mean, that offense has always run that way. They don't have a tight end. And they
you
never
like a
replace
good
Whitney.
tight end.
Yes.
That's what we were talking about, though. No, seriously, you like when a tight end catches the ball and gets into space.
Absolutely. You need the big hands.
Don't go there. We need you know what?
The big hands from the tight end.
I told you this before, though. We do need the Dallas Cowboys to be good.
I agree. You either love them or hate them, but if you hate them, it's better to hate them when they're good.
But, yeah, and to make football, bring back the NFL.
The Raiders are the same way.
We need the Raiders to be good.
We need the Raiders, the Cowboys to be good.
We don't need the Jets to be good. That's my team.
Well, yeah.
I'm used to losing.
And we don't need the Patriots to be good.
I like the L. Yeah, we don't need the Patriots to be good for the NFL to exist. But, we saw this one play that Dak Prescott runs. Vic Beasley, he bites on a read option. He went the absolute wrong way, so that scores the go-ahead touchdown of the game for the Cowboys at the time. But then Brett Maher, he nonchalants the extra point. That's why I was like, is he going to make the winning field goal here? I've never seen anyone so lazy in an extra point attempt in my life. Zeke Elliott had a 28-yard scamper in this game. Really, within the span of 41 seconds, a couple of touchdowns for the Cowboys, but to the credit of Atlanta, to the Falcons, they came back in the game, and Dallas had to win it at the wire. Stay tuned. Much more of the PG Las Vegas comes your way right after this. You are listening to CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The PG with Tony Cordasco and Scott Goldbranson on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, Las Vegas. Call now and rave about your team's Sunday stat line, 702-889-5978.
Welcome back to the show. You know, and if I am Baker Mayfield, I will call out the signal Condoleezza Rice in the same way that, last week, Jared Goff, did you see that? Did you hear him? Halle Berry?
Halle Berry.
Halle Berry.
Yes.
Yeah, Halle Berry. I like that. Hey, we have a correction on Marcel Aitman.
So Marcel Aitman, and thank goodness for our PG and Silver and Black Today fans on Twitter.
I thought you were going to say fam, and I was going to jump out of my shoe.
I'm not one of those millennials.
Don't say
no
fam.
offense to the millennials.
Yeah.
But Marcel Aitman did have a key catch towards the end of the Raiders game to get them into field goal range.
Okay.
So we got to give Marcel Aitman, old school term, props.
He gets props.
For his catch.
We can give props on
we
the
can
show.
give props.
Okay, so we've got a few more games to recap here in the final moments. It's still Chicago leading Minnesota by a count of 3-0 in the first quarter. It's late, under 1 minute to go there. And earlier today, one of the more entertaining games of the day, and don't get me fired up about this one, the Lions defeat the Panthers 20-19. And in this game, we have a sequence in which Cam Newton throws a touchdown pass to DJ Moore, and then they go for 2.
First and goal from the 8, a minute 15 on the clock. Newton looking end zone. He throws, corner of the end zone. Touchdown, DJ Moore. 2-point conversion attempt for Carolina. Newton looking, loads of time. He throws incomplete.
Why would you go for 2? Why would you possibly go for 2?
You're 6-3 playing a 3-6 team. What do you gain? Why not kick the ball, go into overtime, and win the game against the inferior team? I don't understand this. This might come back to really haunt them, Tony, when it comes to playoffs. It will.
It's going to, because down the stretch, they have 2 games against New Orleans.
Yeah.
They've yet to play the Saints.
Twice.
And those could be 2 big fat L's.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you hire a hobo as your coach. Matt Patricia is not, again, repeat, he is not Bill Belichick. I don't care if you learn from the master. You have not done it. And to me, I think that you look at this, he wins a game because
By default.
Yeah. And so you're looking at Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera, you're coaching against the hobo. Why are you going to give him the game?
So Cam Newton.
You give him the game.
Moreover, Cam Newton had
and
5
I like Ron
seconds.
Rivera.
We were counting. We know how to count to 5 seconds.
We can count.
We
just
were
to
counting to 5 seconds. And that's how much time Cam Newton had to throw the football. And he also had a lane to run.
Yeah.
And in the past, he's taken off.
Yeah.
What happened there? Yes, the first thing, the bigger fault is that I don't think you go for 2 points there when you can tie the game up and you have momentum because you just scored a late touchdown.
No, it's thinking you're too smart. You're trying to think too much.
It's ego. It's not thinking you're too smart. It's just fat ego.
Yeah, so
fat head ego.
Well, and again, I mean, Matt Patricia's been a failure there. Ron Rivera's got him where he wants you. You just got to tie the game, kick the ball, get him in a position. He's not going to win the game. I really believe Carolina would have rolled on them, even though it was a close game. And then you screw the pooch, a term that we used to use, right? So now you're going to go down the line. You're going to have to play New Orleans twice, probably lose twice. I'm sorry. I like Carolina a lot. I like Cam Newton, but I just don't see them doing it. And at the end of the day, if you miss the game, if you miss the playoffs by 1 game, you're going to look back on this, and I don't see how it's forgivable.
Is that a fireable offense? I mean, seriously.
Well, Ron Rivera's pretty established down there. I don't know. They love him, but
I get it, but I don't think I would really like him today.
No,
not for doing that. And it's just, and the thing that really astounds me is, okay, they have a timeout, right? So they take the timeout.
Yeah.
Before they go back on the field, they see what they're looking at, take the timeout, talk about it, and they still come back out and go for 2.
There's nothing worse. Just like in basketball,
it's just
when you call a timeout and then the playoff, the timeout is just horrific. You're like, what were you talking about in the huddle? Like, what were you guys planning that you had to do this? And not only that, but I think Cam Newton had plenty of time to run the ball in himself.
He did. He had a huge lane to run the football. He either could have scrambled and went to the right. There was an alleyway there between the guard and tackle spot that had opened up, and he definitely could have done that. And again, you overthink it. New Orleans with the big win today over Philadelphia, and now it is a 9-game winning streak for the Saints. That's
crazy.
Incredible. Yeah, and it's all Drew Brees, as today he throws for 4 touchdowns. 4 more touchdowns for Drew Brees.
Now, this guy, again, I think he's the best ever. No matter what you say about Tom Brady, and I have a lot of respect for Tom Brady, even though it hurts me to say that, I do think that if you look at what he's done, it's amazing. 153.2 passer rating, 23 career games, at least 4 touchdown passes, and 0 interceptions.
Right.
Holy moly.
And their defense is playing out very well, all out. And, New Orleans they might be moving up quickly to the top of the heap, depending on what happens in the game in L.A. on Monday night.
Well, and the stat I just gave you about the career games with 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions, he passed Tom Brady today with the most games. So that shows you what he's doing. And, yes, I love the way that Saints defense has come around. They were not good at the beginning of the year, but it goes to show you right coaching, right players, getting to work, okay, and getting over some early challenges. And now they are, I mean, like I said to Carrington in the few segments ago with the Chiefs and the Rams, they might give the Rams a big, big run at the end of the year, especially if they somehow can wiggle away home field advantage.
Who's the kicker of the day for the Chargers? Because I think he got the Phillip Rivers death stare today. Whoever the kicker is this week, I can't even keep up anymore.
No,
he missed an extra point, and of course the Chargers lose today,
badly,
23-22, and of course it's Case Keenum who orchestrates a 7-play, 76-yard drive that results in the Brandon McManus 34-yard field goal as time expires.
Yeah. Again,
that's a bad loss.
Well, the Chargers, too, had the ball for 18 minutes longer than the Broncos. 18 minutes. That's over a quarter of football, ladies and gentlemen. And they still could not put them away. I don't know what happened with the Chargers today. That's 6 in a row, and they've just been hot as hell. And then suddenly they come out against the Broncos at home, nonetheless. Remember, I guess some people call it a home. It's not really a home field advantage yet. But to me, again, it's one of those things. Are we seeing the typical Charger fade at the end of the year? We'll see.
Tomorrow night in Los Angeles, the big game, the Chiefs and the Rams. Any prediction on that contest?
Well, I actually, as much as I like the Rams overall, in this game I like the Chiefs. But as our engineer and production guy here, David Stepanian, gets some notes for us. First time ever 2 one-loss teams meet in Week 10 or later. It's going to be a hell of a game. Do not miss this one. I'm going to take the Chiefs 43-41.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the winning team will score at least 40 points in this contest. In other words, folks, take the over. Just a little. We're going to throw you a bone. Again, for Scott Gulbranson, and, of course, for David Stepanian, our engineer, we'd like to also thank Carrington Harrison for joining us from the Ticket 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City. I'm Tony Cardasco, bidding everyone a pleasant good evening. Once again, you've been listening to the PG Las Vegas right here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.